They will tell you success is about strategy. They will tell you it's about timing or luck or connections, but they are only telling you half the truth. The other half is hidden, unseen by the untrained eye. It is made of silent forces and invisible laws, the very currents of the universe that have built every empire since the dawn of time. Because there are laws deeper than economics, deeper than politics, deeper than circumstance, laws that govern who rises and who falls, laws that do not care where you were born, what you look like, or what the world says you can achieve. These are the invisible laws that build empires. The first law is the law of mindset. Every empire begins in the invisible kingdom of thought. Before steel rises into the sky, before fortunes are built from empty hands, before movements shake the foundations of humanity, they begin as a single thought, fully believed. Think of Andrew Carnegie, a boy in Scotland working in a cotton mill at the age of 12, making barely $1 a week. He wasn't born an industrial titan. He wasn't born to dominate the steel industry. But his mindset refused to stay poor. His mind saw possibilities where others saw chains. Your mindset is not simply the way you think. It is the foundation upon which you build your entire existence. If your mindset is small, your empire will be small. If your mindset is chained by fear, your empire will remain imprisoned. The invisible law is this: your external world expands only to the level of your internal beliefs, and those beliefs become unbreakable only when forged in purpose. That is the second law, the law of purpose. No empire is built on casual desire. Empires are not built on "I'd like to." Empires are built on "I must." Look at Martin Luther King Jr. His purpose was so powerful it could not be silenced by prison, nor threats, nor death itself. He carried a dream that did not serve him alone. It served humanity. Purpose gives pain meaning. It transforms sacrifice into investment. Purpose makes discipline effortless because it anchors your suffering to something greater than yourself. And that leads to the third invisible law, the law of discipline. Most people are slaves to mood. Empires are built by those who are slaves to purpose. Discipline is freedom in its highest form. It is self-respect made visible. It is telling your future self, "I will not abandon you." Henry Ford was disciplined enough to push past every failure, every rejection, every ridicule. They laughed when he said he'd build a car affordable to the masses. But discipline is louder than laughter. He worked, refined, tested, failed, learned, and rose. Because discipline is not rigid. Discipline adapts, which is the fourth law, the law of adaptability. The world does not bend to those who refuse to bend with it. It bends to those who remain anchored in purpose but fluid in method. Think of Thomas Edison. 10,000 failed experiments before the light bulb finally burned bright. 10,000 adaptations. 10,000 ways the universe asked him, "How bad do you want this?" Most people quit after 2 or 3 failures. Edison understood adaptability is not weakness. It is strength in motion. It is intelligence in action. It is evolution accelerated by decision. But adaptability requires something deeper, the law of resilience. Because adaptability without resilience is strategy without strength. Every empire builder has faced darkness. Lincoln faced mental collapse and national collapse. Mandela faced prison for 27 years. Disney faced bankruptcy after bankruptcy. Resilience is the art of using pain as fuel. It is telling life, "I will take every stone you throw and build my castle with them." It is the unbreakable faith that your destiny is stronger than your circumstances, and that faith itself is governed by the sixth law, the law of belief. Belief is not hope. Belief is certainty in the unseen. It is seeing the invisible, speaking the impossible, and acting as if it were inevitable. Napoleon Hill called it faith. The unwavering knowing that what you want already exists in potential. It is only waiting for your alignment to bring it into form. Belief is the mother of confidence. It is the father of courage. Without belief, action is half-hearted. Vision is half-blind. Discipline is half-lived. And belief brings forth the seventh invisible law, the law of vision. Empires are not built by those who see the world as it is. Empires are built by those who see the world as it could be. Steve Jobs saw computers as extensions of the human soul. Carnegie saw steel as the skeleton of modern civilization. Oprah saw media as a stage for the transformation of human hearts. Vision is not a pretty dream. It is a blueprint for reality. It is a lighthouse guiding you through storms. Without vision, you will be lost in distraction. You will chase applause instead of legacy. You will chase money instead of meaning. And vision births clarity. The eighth invisible law, the law of clarity. Because the universe does not respond to confusion. It responds to conviction. Clarity kills hesitation. It silences the thousand trivial wants and sharpens you to the one desire that defines your empire. Clarity tells you what to say no to. It tells you where to direct your energy, your focus, your life force. But clarity alone is useless without the ninth law, the law of ruthless action. Action is the bridge between invisible and visible, between dream and empire, between who you are and who you can become. You cannot think your way into greatness. You act your way into it. You show up before you're ready. You build before you're qualified. You walk before you see the path. Because the path appears only to those already walking. Action silences fear. It suffocates doubt. It transforms anxiety into momentum. Yet there is an even deeper force beneath action, the law of gratitude. Because gratitude keeps you from becoming a tyrant to your own ambition. Gratitude transforms the climb. It gives you joy on the journey, not just the summit. It keeps your spirit light and your vision clear. Gratitude is not passive thankfulness. It is active alignment with abundance. It is saying, I see the gifts hidden in the struggle. I see the lessons in the failures. And gratitude connects to the final law, the law that binds all the others together, the law of becoming. Because empires are not built by doing alone, they are built by becoming. You don't build an empire to prove who you are. You build an empire to discover who you can become. You become disciplined. You become resilient. You become visionary. You become the embodiment of the laws that built every kingdom before you, and that is the ultimate invisible law. The external empire you build is nothing but a mirror of the internal empire you have already forged. Most people will never understand these laws. They will spend their lives blaming the government, their boss, their childhood, their partner, or the economy. They will search for external causes to explain their smallness, never realizing that empires are not crushed by the world. They are crushed by minds that never learned the laws. Because the universe is not judging you. It is not punishing you. It is simply responding to you. It is reflecting you. And when you understand this, you awaken the final dimension of power, the law of responsibility. Responsibility is not guilt. It is not blame. It is radical ownership. It is saying, I am the cause. I am the creator. I am the architect. That does not mean every circumstance is your fault, but it does mean your response to every circumstance is your responsibility. And it is in your response that empires are built or destroyed. Lincoln could not control civil war, but he chose to respond with unwavering unity. Mandela could not control imprisonment, but he chose to respond with forgiveness and vision. Oprah could not control childhood abuse, but she chose to respond with relentless growth. Your response is your power. Your response is your freedom. Your response is your empire. And to respond powerfully, you must understand the law of environment. Your environment is not neutral. It is shaping you every second. The people you speak with, the thoughts you hear, the images you consume, these are architects of your destiny. Andrew Carnegie said he owed his success to surrounding himself with men greater than himself. Napoleon Hill called it the mastermind principle, that no mind, no matter how brilliant, can grow beyond its environment. If you plant an oak tree seed in a tiny pot, it remains a tiny plant. But the same seed planted in rich soil with space to grow will become a giant that stands for centuries. Ask yourself daily, who is shaping me? What am I feeding my mind? Where is my environment leading me? Because your empire will rise only as high as your environment allows. But environment is not just external. Your internal environment, your daily rituals, your morning routine, your unspoken self-talk, these build or destroy your kingdom before you even leave your bed. This is the law of ritual. Rituals are sacred agreements with yourself. They tell the world, I govern my life. I command my state. I am not a leaf blown by the winds of mood or news or gossip. Carnegie woke at dawn to read and plan. Edison worked alone at night to hear his own thoughts. Disney walked his empty studio each morning imagining characters dancing on the walls before a single sketch existed. Your rituals shape your state. Your state shapes your decisions. Your decisions shape your destiny. But all rituals must be aligned with your law of intention. Intention is invisible energy. It is the purpose behind your action. Two people can do the same thing with different intention. One builds an empire, the other remains stagnant. Intention focuses your force. It tells the universe why you are moving, who you are becoming, what you are willing to sacrifice. And sacrifice is a law of empire that cannot be ignored. This is the law of sacrifice. You cannot have everything. You must give up to go up. You must let go of who you were to become who you must be. Every empire builder sacrificed comfort. They sacrificed approval. They sacrificed temporary pleasures for eternal purpose. Ford sacrificed stability to risk building the assembly line. Carnegie sacrificed social approval to break monopolies and build for the masses. Oprah sacrificed the safety of traditional journalism to speak from her soul. Sacrifice is not loss, it is exchange. You trade what is limited for what is limitless. You trade fleeting pleasure for permanent power, and sacrifice demands you understand the law of patience, because empires are not built overnight. They are not built in a year. They are built over decades, brick by brick, belief by belief, action by action. Patience is not passive. It is active trust. It is working with urgency but living with peace. It is the ability to plant seeds today, knowing the harvest will come in seasons you cannot yet see. Think of the bamboo tree. For 4 years it shows no visible growth above the soil, but in the 5th year it shoots up 80 feet in 6 weeks. Did it grow in 6 weeks? No, it grew for 5 years underground, building the roots strong enough to hold its height. Your dream is growing underground right now. The invisible roots are taking hold, but will you be patient enough to keep watering, keep nurturing, keep believing? Because if you are, you will discover the law of momentum. Momentum is the secret force of empire builders. In the beginning, everything is hard. Every step is uphill. Every action feels heavy. But when you persist, when you keep showing up, momentum begins to build. And what once felt impossible now feels inevitable. The universe responds to consistent energy with compounded results. Edison's first invention failed, his second sold barely, his third changed the world. Ford's first company collapsed, his second went bankrupt, his third built the modern era. Momentum turns resistance into flow, effort into ease, vision into reality. But momentum dies without the law of focus. Focus is power concentrated. It is refusing to scatter your energy. It is saying no to 1,000 good ideas so you can say yes to the one idea that will change your life forever. Disney focused on animation mastery before amusement parks. Carnegie focused on steel before philanthropy. Jobs focused on personal computing before everything else. Focus is the silent force behind all empires. Without it, you will remain average in everything and master of nothing. And mastery is the final goal of these invisible laws, because you were not born for mediocrity. You were not born to dabble. You were born to dominate your craft, your calling, your corner of the universe. This is your empire. It does not matter how it looks to others. It matters that it was built from your deepest truth. Mastery is not a destination. It is a devotion to never-ending growth, to waking up each day and sharpening your mind like a warrior sharpens his blade, to never letting comfort dull your edge, because this is the invisible law. Most forget the law of eternal growth. Nature never stops expanding. Rivers keep flowing. Trees keep reaching. The universe keeps unfolding, and you, as a child of this universe, were born to expand. The moment you stop growing is the moment your empire begins to decay. Henry Ford knew this. After revolutionizing manufacturing, he spent years studying aviation and agriculture, seeking ways to uplift the world beyond automobiles. Carnegie knew this. After building the steel empire, he devoted his life to libraries, education, and world peace efforts. They understood that growth is not just material, it is spiritual, it is mental, it is the ever-evolving expression of your highest self. But to keep growing, you must obey the law of humility. Humility is not weakness, it is the silent confidence that knows it is still a student no matter how vast the kingdom becomes. Edison held over 1,000 patents, yet he sat with janitors and machinists to learn small efficiencies. Disney was revered as a genius, yet he spent nights in animation studios learning frame-by-frame techniques from his artists. Humility keeps you open to wisdom. Arrogance closes the gates to growth. Humility builds bridges. Ego burns them down. And humility reveals another hidden law, the law of service, because no empire stands without serving others. If your empire is built only for your glory, it will crumble with your absence. But if it is built to serve, it becomes immortal. Carnegie's libraries outlived his empire. Disney's stories outlived his lifetime. Mandela's legacy outlived his imprisonment. True greatness is measured not by how much you accumulate, but by how many you uplift. Service is the highest form of power because it is power multiplied. It turns wealth into impact. It turns vision into movement. It turns a single life into a ripple that shapes millions. And service is only possible through the law of courage, because serving others requires standing up when it's easier to remain silent. It requires risking ridicule to speak truth. It requires sacrifice to build what others need, not just what you want. Martin Luther King Jr. had courage. His empire was not made of gold or stone. It was made of words and conviction, and it shook a nation. Mother Teresa had courage. Her empire was not built of wealth, but of compassion, and it changed humanity's understanding of love. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it. It is feeling doubt, hearing ridicule, tasting failure, and still choosing to rise. And this brings us to one of the most sacred invisible laws, the law of faith over fear. Fear imprisons empires in the mind before they ever touch reality. Fear whispers, "Who are you to build this?" Faith roars back, "Who am I not to?" Faith is not religious. Faith is the certainty that your vision was given to you for a reason, that if the dream exists within you, then so does the capacity to achieve it. Faith does not require proof before action. Faith acts and proof arrives later. Edison had faith in the unseen light. Ford had faith in the unseen car. Disney had faith in unseen worlds. Their faith bent reality to match their vision, because faith is creation. Fear is destruction. Every decision you make is powered by one or the other. Choose wisely. And to choose faith over fear daily, you must understand the law of energy. Your energy is your empire's fuel. Guard it ruthlessly. Protect it like the sacred fire it is. Who you let into your circle, what you feed your mind, how you care for your body. These determine the strength of your energy. Carnegie exercised and meditated before meetings. Edison napped strategically to preserve mental clarity. Oprah guards her mornings as sacred time to align before serving the world. Energy is the currency of achievement. Time without energy is useless. Talent without energy is wasted. Dreams without energy remain dreams. And to sustain your energy, you must align with the law of alignment. Alignment is when your thoughts, words, actions, and purpose flow in the same direction. When you say what you believe and do what you say. When your inner life and outer life become one force. Alignment removes friction. It turns struggle into flow. It turns confusion into clarity. It turns fatigue into power. Most people live fragmented lives. They believe one thing, say another, and do something else entirely. Their energy leaks. Their empire cracks. Alignment seals those cracks with integrity and truth. And alignment births the most transcendent law of all, the law of legacy. Because in the end, your empire will not be measured by how tall it stood, but by how long it stood after you were gone. Legacy is immortality. It is your name whispered in gratitude generations after your last breath. It is your actions echoing through the lives you touched, the movements you sparked, the worlds you built. Legacy is built by living each day with intention, by knowing that every decision writes the story your grandchildren will read. Every action lays a brick not just for your empire, but for the empires of those who come after you. This is how invisible laws become eternal truths. This is how ordinary men and women become immortal architects of human progress. This is how you can become more than just another life lived and forgotten. You can become a builder of empires. And now we arrive at the edge, the place where all empire builders stand before they begin, the place where the invisible becomes visible, where thought becomes action, where possibility becomes reality. This is the place of decision. Because in the end, it all comes down to a single undeniable law, the law of choice. Choice is the crown upon your mind. It is the throne upon which your destiny sits. Everything begins and ends here. You can choose fear or you can choose faith. You can choose comfort or you can choose greatness. You can choose excuses or you can choose empire. Choice is the first builder's tool. Before the blueprint, before the bricks, before the steel, there is the decision that I will build. No one can choose for you, not your parents, not your partner, not your friends, not even your mentors. Choice is the one kingdom that remains fully yours. And with that choice, you awaken the deepest of all invisible laws, the law of becoming. Because the empire is never the goal. The empire is a mirror reflecting back the person you chose to become along the way. When you choose to build, you choose to transform. You choose to let old identities die. You choose to let old fears fade. You choose to let old limitations crumble beneath the weight of your new reality. Think of it. Carnegie did not remain the poor Scottish boy. He became the world's greatest industrial philanthropist. Ford did not remain the farm mechanic. He became the father of modern industry. Oprah did not remain the abused girl. She became a global force of healing and power. Mandela did not remain the prisoner. He became the reconciler of a divided nation. Every empire was first a person becoming. And as you become, you awaken the final force that ties every law together, the law of oneness. The understanding that you are not separate from your dream. You are not separate from your empire. You're not separate from the universe that conspires to build with you. You are the universe in motion. You are the cosmos creating. You are infinite potential clothed in human skin, gifted with breath, gifted with thought, gifted with the will to rise. This is what Napoleon Hill meant when he said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve, because the mind is not just an observer of reality, it is the architect of it. When you think a thought with conviction, you command atoms into order. When you speak with intention, you rearrange probabilities. When you act with purpose, you bend the world to your vision. This is not philosophy. This is physics. This is biology. This is spiritual law written into the fabric of everything that has ever existed. And so you stand here right now with the tools in your hand, mindset, purpose, discipline, adaptability, resilience, belief, vision, clarity, action, gratitude, responsibility, environment, ritual, intention, sacrifice, patience, momentum, focus, growth, humility, service, courage, faith, energy, alignment, legacy, choice, becoming, oneness. These are not just words. They are the invisible laws that build empires. They are the silent codes written into every success story you admire. The unspoken truths behind every fortune, every movement, every revolution that shifted the course of human history, and now they are yours. So what will you do? Will you let them remain invisible, locked away in the shadows of potential? Or will you bring them into light, wield them with courage, and carve your name into eternity? Because one day, whether in this life or in memory, they will speak of you. They will say, here was a builder. Here was a mind that dared to think beyond limitation. Here was a spirit that refused the chains of mediocrity. Here was a heart that served, a vision that transformed, a life that built something something death could not touch. They will say here was an empire, not of stone alone, but of soul. And that is what these invisible laws are calling you to do, to rise beyond survival, to rise beyond comfort, to rise beyond the fears of smaller minds, and to become what you were always destined to be, a builder of worlds, a mover of history, a creator of legacy, an architect of the unseen, a master of the invisible laws that build empires. Now go, stand tall, speak your vision, act with relentless devotion, hold your faith like a blade, love like your empire depends on it, serve like your legacy demands it, and never, never bow to the smallness within you, because the laws are watching and the universe is waiting for your decision. Build